We get told now and again as managers of the outback and farming people and ag people all through Australia get lectured to about how, oh, it all depends on what rain you get. As far as our carbon project goes, it all depends on how we utilise the rain. This country I'm standing on here, if the landscape all looked like this and you get, 30, 40 mils in a hurry, off it goes, the water. Muddy and in a hurry and a minimal penetration down. 40 metres away, where it's vegetated, there's heaps of little old root follicles and biomass at the top, it goes down. So what I'll do, I'll be putting a cylinder here on the hard stuff and a cylinder in the grass, and we'll see if we can measure any difference in how the water is absorbed over a period. I feel that landscape rehydration is crucially important on Yuin Station. You observe the growing areas of eroded, water-starved spots that are occurring throughout the southern rangelands, up in through the Gascoyne, since Europeans have stocked this country, and watch them slowly grow from the 50s through to now.
The historical grazing around here was very high, as is well documented, and it doesn't necessarily show up overnight, but over a 20-year period, if you graze an area really heavily, you've got nothing new coming through, and you'll have sort of parkland clearing, if you like. Eventually, everything established will move on and die, and there'll be nothing to replace it. Yuin is a multi-generational place. It was first bought by my great-grandfather in 1929, so the family has always had a long-term outlook on the place.
When I turned up in about the 1950s, things hadn't changed much for many years. But after that, people started to become more conscious of stocking rates and so on, bearing in mind that the state government edict was that you had to run so many stock to keep the lease. No mention of backing off a bit or anything like that.
I mean, you've only got to look at a horse paddock in a hobby farming region to see what livestock can do to a paddock. It's very dusty, very dry and very bare.
This is an example of something that's gone really wrong. The water is coming along from the northeast, only about 100 to 150 mil deep. It's hitting the road and following gravity. Water's not very complicated, it follows gravity. So if it can go a path of least resistance down the track, it does. So our job has been to put a series of stopping points along that fence line called bunds, and so the water will continue to flow across the landscape. In the 60s, there was a little track graded through this area, and it was slowly rutting out. And because the water flows that way at about 45 degrees to this track, it was coming along gently, hitting the wheel tracks, and off it was going. The country on that side was getting starved of water. We came along and built a series of bunds. So that'll go down there, and you see the heavy vegetation on the end. It comes off the end and away it keeps going then.
Left to its own devices, that country which is degrading without intervention is going to continue to degrade, so therefore it makes rational sense to invest in activities which prevent that ongoing decay or degradation and improve ground cover, infiltration and total health of that ecosystem.
I think that carbon farming is the biggest lever that we have to improve the state of the rangelands. It's rewarding people to look after the land appropriately, and that can only be a good thing.
So one of the key issues in measurements of projects in the WA rangelands or the WA mulga shrublands has been the lack of calibration of FullCam with Western Australian calorimetric data, chronological and spatial, and that can only be improved through a feedback system whereby the aggregators can provide their data back to FullCam to improve its modelling accuracy.
Roscoe, do you think landscape rehydration would be a beneficial inclusion to the proposed integrated farm and land management method?
Absolutely, to get some incentive where you get a bit of an income coming in which can then be returned to the country to allow vegetation to thrive, to allow carbon to be dragged out of the atmosphere into the dirt, which is what the aim of the whole process is to a degree, along with having healthy landscapes. Fantastic, yeah. It has to be almost part of it, in my opinion. Let's just say we're at about 6.5 minutes now. This stuff on the particular hard pan is at around the 50mm mark down. There's a little bit of dampness around the edge, but so would there be here, about fair. You come over here and effectively it is, well, it's not effectively, it is. It's at the 100mm mark. So if you come in a bit closer here, I'll show you. So if you think about what nature's doing a gazillion times over, there you go. You've just had your downpour. There's your result. You come over here, you've just had your downpour, and there's your result there. And if you replicate that a trillion times, you have a very fast flowing creek of muddy water, which is not much use to anyone. Long term, you can't put a cost on your land being in really good condition, and that's what our family aims to do. We are not getting paid to do the rehydration, we are doing it because it's the right thing to do and because the country will respond accordingly.
I suppose it's like picking up someone's rubbish in the street, isn't it? Like, you didn't necessarily drop it, but you do the right thing if you can afford to and find the time to sort it out.